Well, I came to the right place. Good afternoon. Oh, thank you so much.
So this is David O'Neill. I think many of you know him just by reputation in Carmel by the Sea. But I just kind of keep running into him at Carmel Chamber of Commerce, Carmel Women's Club. And most recently, we did a show together at Carmel Women's Club, Creatives. No, that was fabulous. And then I think I heard about this, he did the Chateau restoration, but that's where we had a chance to talk. And it's, David, could you come and give us a talk about this? And he said, yes. And then with that, I just asked for a little outfit too. So this phrase Fred hates to hear, without further ado.
I want more ado, more ado.
David O'Neill.
The thing that I love about this place are the people. And you know, the creative element that's here and that's been here since the beginning. I just was in the tour house for the first time last week. And I was really getting into the mood of it, you know, and being able to come here was a perfect sort of segue into that experience of sharing with each other in a very free and open way, and all of our different ways of sharing art with other people or creating art for ourselves, and how that all changes and everything. I've always been creative. When I was a little kid, I used to make chateaus out of Legos and things like that, and limousines and yachts and, and private planes filled with jewels, you know. I had high expectations from our little trailer in Fresno. But what you can dream, you can create. And this came true for us. My husband and I wanted to do a historic renovation project, and we looked over the East Coast, and there were all sorts of challenges, and so we kind of shied away from those. And we wound up going to Scotland, found something we really liked, but that was complicated. But even though we don't speak French, we thought we really like French architecture. That's really what we'd like to do. And so we thought, well, maybe we could go to France. We got Google Translate now, which did help a lot, especially in the documents. And we had met an attorney who practiced in both countries, and he lived in Montecito where we lived, and so it made it really reasonable. We went over to France and we saw this one. Now, just to kind of give you a clue, I'm about as tall as that right there.
Wow.
So it's about 75 feet tall up all the way to the top. And we were in the village there looking at the other chateau in the village. It's very cute and quaint and had been turned into facilities and stuff like that, so it needed me a lot of fun details put back, but it was simple. The guy who was managing both properties said, "Do you want to go see this one too?" And I was like, oh, it looks like it's covered in black mold and it was crumbling. And it was just, I thought, oh no, I don't want to touch that, you know. So we went over there, and William loved how tall the ceilings were. You know, the vertical element, it had that real French design, right? And certainly very 19th century, because it looks really big, but it's only one room thick. So it gives this imposing edifice, but it's not. It's a neo-Renaissance, neo-Gothic. We were going through, I was like, I don't want this, I don't want it, you know. And he was going, wow, I love it. So I know, I'm like, oh darn. And I promised his mother that I would do anything to make him happy. That was a bad promise. Yeah. We do negotiate a little. But so it was on the market for $5 million, actually $5.5 million. And most chateaus of the 19th century with the same amount of land, 30 acres or so, are about 2.5. So it was way overpriced. To begin
dollars
with.
Or?
Euros, but euros and dollars were similar.
What location, please?
The Loire Valley, really next to
unknown area,
Brittany,
yeah.
Really close to Brittany. We were just about 2 hours south drive by little roads from Mount Saint Michel. And so it was a place called, they would call it Méconnu, which means unknown, undiscovered country, you know. And so we were on the plane, and William says, I'm going to offer him $500,000. I just sold a condo in the bad part of town to people for 500,000. You're going to offer that for 30 acres in a chateau? And he said, yeah. I said, okay, fine, whatever. We don't need to discuss it anymore because it's not going to happen.
Right. Uh-oh.
Well, they countered at 550,000.
Whoa! Wow!
Yeah, no, we made a huge donation to France. It was a lot of fun. We were clear on the estimated expense of about 5 million is what we would stop putting into it. And then I was going to do some weddings each year to kind of keep for the upcoming cost, for each year. So we started our journey. And this is the little village. This is actually the other chateau that was in the village. And this is the land we're flying from the chateau that we purchased towards the église here, the chapel that dates back to the 11th century, somewhere around there. And it's made entirely of stone, all the way up to the steeple, where in that area most of it's ardoise or slate. And so the joke in the town is that there's as many pretty girls in town as there are slates on the steeple. That's not nice. Okay, so you can see all this black mold. Basically, they did a 3D scan of the whole thing, and just for the stonework. 70% of the entire facade had to be completely replaced. And this is only part of the chateau.
Wait, because of mold or because of crumbling or a
Both.
variety?
Can you hand me that bag right there?
Oh, heavy.
Yeah. So this is not actually the stone from ours, but it's actually from a much older place that some friends were renovated, and they gave it to us as a gift. But it's the same type of stone. It's called tuffeau. And it's so soft you could write your name in it with your fingernails.
It's like sandstone.
Yes, very, very easy to carve. However, it disintegrates really easily.
Yeah.
Is it a form of limestone?
It is kind of, yeah. And they soak it in the river to make it harder. So it's almost like chalk, really. I know, I don't really understand that myself either. Does anybody else want to touch it?
It must be porous,
It dries
right?
out. So the chateau is stacked rock. And then this block rock is stacked too, without mortar. There's just like a lime, sand and lime kind of composition that they would put in between there. But it really can all be washed out. So what's really important is the way that the roof structure is done and the gutters are done correctly and maintained properly. Because when those don't happen, then you start having excess water that doesn't drain properly. And if it gets in the middle, we had this part where the A of one of the wings of the chateau is supposed to have a connecting joist like here, but it was offset. And so over all the years, the roof was pushing the wall out, the skin of that light color stone. And so water was getting into just stacked rock with mud. And that was washing away. So one more year and I don't think anybody would have touched it, especially since in Europe, 19th century is not very interesting. They're just like, oh, that's new. So we're like, this is 1855, so we're like gold rush, this is fun, I love it. And this is actually a San Francisco hat of the period. A little bit different than in France, but I did find one in the chateau that was, actually it was British. So can't quite tell when or where it was from, but that was fun. And my clothing is really more 18th century. So just just pretend that I lived through the change of that century and went into the next and decided I wasn't going to change my clothes. And I kept them very nice. So when the chateau was inherited, the Count de Falloux built it in 1855 and his nephew inherited, and they did this big map, actually huge, it folded out over a whole room, of all the land that he owned in that area. But he owned tens of thousands of acres, which is why he could afford to build a chateau. But it shows the little église here and the river coming through with the bridge that he built, actually. He had built like a lavoir to wash clothes and everything. So this is really just the way it was originally. And here's the church up over here. We redid the driveway. So we put in the alleyways to make it more of a French style, but it was a park on glaze, which was the style of that time. He had spent a lot of time over in England and brought back a lot of the more modern farming techniques and ways of putting together things. So this is me here. That's my car someday. So this is another image of it. It was so awful.
It looks like it's
I'm
about
thinking it's nets, like to
fall-
catch any
looks like it's
loose
about to
stones
fall
or
down.
something,
It
right?
was so bad, honest, and it was so visible. You could
That's
see
a
it from all
gutsy
over the
man.
place. So a lot of people were getting excited about it because we wanted to hire all people locally. We wanted to create weddings with events and bring business. I have a friend who's Chinese, and he had a connection to somebody who could bring 50 weddings a year into the area that we could share with different facilities and stuff like that, and bring a huge economy in, and then tourism, and the little stone houses in the village and stuff, they were for nothing. There was no price. They were just like 10 grand or something.
Oh,
So we
cut
thought
it
we would
out.
get it, fix it up, an artist or some artisans, a cheesemaker, winemaker, whatever, could go in there free, and then they could buy it from us once their system kind of went going well. But that way we can inject, some energy into the place that was dying from the core, which is pretty common there. These are stacked end on end tractor trailer containers. This is the amount of trash removed from the project. And that's the chateau, the whole project. So that does include, there was a planted, well, that doesn't include actually forestry, because that all went, into fills and stuff like that. So this is the heating systems. We did forced air. They actually had some old fashioned sort of clay tubes that would come from a furnace in the basement.
Oh my God.
And they just kind of barely percolate a little heat, so that maybe if you stood right over it, maybe you'd feel something. With these, God, the ceilings downstairs, I think, were 22 feet tall. So, but we wanted to make sure that it was a comfortable place for all seasons, because we intended to stay there. This is a little presentation that I did when we were early there. We got an award because we'd already made so much progress. So they created an award, the Patron One, or Historic Award, for their area to give to us for this, which was really nice, because they saw all the efforts we were putting in. This is one of the fun people that we met. So this is Madame Gillet, and Madame Gillet was in this hallway here cleaning those huge windows when she was listening to Queen Elizabeth being crowned. It was so cute. And so she was a maid, and she spent most of her time in the maid's area in the kitchen and stuff. She loved to tell us the story about when the Count would come in with his dirty boots and go upstairs and get it all muddy out on her clean floors. And she told him what to do, and you take it downstairs. She was so cute, feisty. I loved her. And we went up to see the room that she used to sleep in. Now, we didn't touch any of those spaces at all. That room had a clean floor. Isn't that wild? It was like all
She
polished.
must have snuck in
Well,
there regularly.
That's great, a sneaking cleaner. So we celebrated her 90th birthday at the Chateau with all of her friends and family, and she showed up in a little Citroen, cute little older car. And they opened the door for her. She got out, had this whole receiving line, and she ran straight for me. I'm like, no, talk to your family. She's so cute. We didn't really communicate with each other verbally, but we had deep affection. So we also did events for the retirement club and the kids club. We taught them how to make s'mores and stuff like that. Well, they loved anything American. This was the other chateau that I wanted to do. And we wound up doing, in a number of different chateaus and places, different concerts and art exhibits and poetry readings and all sorts of different things. And
How
then
long were you there?
4 years. We were busy. We kind of divided some things. William, really, and we had two great people helping us. A wonderful architect who architects act as general contractors there. He was Scottish and very stoic, but I did get him to laugh one time. I shouldn't tell you, but I'm going to tell you. So it was one of the times where we were having a neighboring mayor come in that we were a little bit concerned about, wanting to, have good relationships with and heard bad things about. So it's on my best behavior. And so we're going around and I'm saying like apple, palm. And he's like, yes, that's an apple. Good for you. Doing that kind of French for them, right? We get into the inside of the chateau and we're in the area that is where the family lived, not where their guests were. And I was trying to explain that in this area, all of the wood that's faux painted to look like oak is actually pine. So they made it less expensive through here, but spent the money to make it look like it. Sapin means pine. Ça sapin is this is pine. I said ça c'est pine because I was thinking the N-E with the E at the end. Ça c'est pine. So I was like, ça c'est pine, ça c'est pine, ça c'est pine, ça c'est pine. And my architect's getting this really strange smile on his on his face. I never saw one before. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on? He said, you're saying that these are penises. Oh, darn. That was a moment. He was looking at me like, wow, these guys from California, they're a little obsessed. I want to just tell you a little bit of history about the man who built the chateau and his family. His grandmother was an au pair to the royal children during the Revolution. She stayed with him through the incarceration. At that time, she was not a royal, and so they let her go. She did inherit a title later on, but she stayed with him the whole time. And I thought, that just touches my heart, that you could have run away, could have got away from all of that, but you wanted to stay and take care of this family. I thought that was special. Good. Here she is. This is when she was young. We found a picture and then had that painted. And then this is his daughter, which is the mother of Falou. She was a little more austere. This is the portrait that we put above the walk-in fireplace of Marie Antoinette with her children as an homage for sacrifice, love, respect, and the connection through the time, especially since Count de Falou was a royalist, and he wrote a book, Memoirs of a Royalist, and this is during a time where we had multiple revolutions in France. He was also a politician. So during his life, I think he was born through Louis the 18th, who was the brother of Louis the 16th, right? He was great. He was like a constitutional monarch. Everybody liked him. He was kind of like Queen of England. But when he passed away, Charles X took over, and he was like, I'm taking it back to, one ruler and, put everybody in their place and all that kind of stuff. So they did a revolution, got rid of him. They wound up putting Louis Philippe on the throne, but he was not king of France. He was king of the French. So he had a very diplomatic position. He restored and reopened Versailles to the public and things like that. Yeah, he was a decent person. And then, of course, Napoleon, the first grandson, came here and started the Second Empire, and he got way too greedy and let go. But during his time, the Count de Falou was incarcerated, and we don't know the details of how long, but after that, he retired and he went to the countryside and said, I'm over this. Kind of sounds like how I feel about politics. So this is the Count de Falou, and this is his wife, and this is his daughter. And she was unusually small, which is kind of like how they described it. But there was a song written for her, and we found it because we met a young historian who taught me all this stuff and just delved into it with me, and it was wonderful. We found this song, and we had an arrangement with this organization that wanted to put 19th century pianos in 19th century chateaus or places, and then play the same music of the period. So we said, that's fantastic, and we get a free piano.
Harpsichord.
We got to hear this song for the first time in 100 years, I bet.
Wow, it's amazing they found the music.
Louis likes it. Sorry, that part's so silly. that's not all of it. So I'm going to stop it on that.
Where did
nice
those
note.
pianos come from?
There's an association that collected them because people weren't really valuing them very much. And so the association said, we'll put our piano in there.
That's a beautiful piano.
Yeah,
Right?
it's a broadwood and it's actually English and it is lovely. So this is it after the renovation.
Wow.
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 This is what it would have looked like in 1855. They came in with a 3D scanner, and then in the mason's office, they had somebody who had like screens like this around, and he had the entire facade all mapped out like that. And then he was like, okay, we're missing a piece here. That should be like this piece over here. So if we do that, and just meticulous work. Then they had a robot cut all the pieces, and they numbered and put them in place and everything. And we had probably 24 masons year-round for 2 years. And 2 of them were young ladies, very, very thin and small, but just working as hard as can be. Delighted. The masonry company made this for us. It was a surprise. They put the O'Neill crest on here. I guess just international, all O'Neills, you know. And then they put the original architect and then our architect that did the renovation. So that's there's the architect in his kilt, of course. William was so jealous. That's William, my husband. Louis, our dog. And you can see me wearing the hat. I really wanted to turn, every year we did a celebration with fireworks and everything. I wanted to turn it into where we would all get costumes, or whoever wanted to, and turn it into a 19th century fair. So some people from some of my other presentations wanted a little bit more information on the interior design. So this is fabric that we got in Paris, and the guy, they call it baguettes, but they're little small pieces of wood. One guy stretched it all the way across the room. I was gone for a day, and all of a sudden it was done, and I thought, what? How many people do you have in here? He did it himself. I wish we'd done more of that because these buildings move all the time and plaster cracks. So it's kind of irritating if you're a particular. At first I got here, I'm like, okay, do I have to do like 19th century, French, specific and be real guideline by it? And William had things he wanted in, and okay. So I said, okay, we're just gonna do what we want. And so then people were coming in and said, so, what period is this? What are you doing? I said, it's California French. They loved it. I mean, I should start an international thing because they loved it. California French was just fabulous. They were there, but they had been damaged really badly by all the water that had come in and everything. So we had to take them down by hand with steel wool and turpentine and stuff. And we just had to do that ourselves. But it just turned out so beautiful.
And those chandeliers were still
No,
there?
they had no chandeliers. They had like these inverted pyramids that had these, cylinders, and that had just some light bulbs up at the top, and then a disco ball and some colored lights. And we're like, not really the aesthetic we're going for. So we gave them away.
Yay.
They were Murano chandeliers,
No.
and they were very valuable. But at least it was a nice gift for somebody. I wouldn't want them anyway, so I got to do my dream kitchen. When I was younger, I got to design kitchens for Sears, and so I love doing that. And this kitchen is like everything I ever wanted to do. And so we had a butler's pantry, and then the main kitchen area.
It's California French, right?
Yeah, very California. People would walk in and go, because they don't think of kitchens as places to enjoy. In fact, us having a Oriental rug or something there, they were like, this has to go. People told us you must take this away. I'm like, are you kidding me? But anyway, that was a lot of fun. And this painting from Lulu Cookies Biscuits, we found that in California for our sort of French style home in Montecito and brought it with us. We wound up living just a stone's throw away, just like 30 minutes away from their original manufacturing, and in the same town as Longchamp, original headquarters. And of course, we got to get a La Cornue, and we got to go to Paris, pick it out and everything, and it cost half as much as it does here.
What kind of dishes?
Wow.
Dishes?
What kind of dishes did you have?
Well, we had a lot of different styles of Wedgwood. Thank you. Yeah, in different styles and stuff like that my husband liked to do. But what I wanted to do was silverware and crystal. So we went and found Saint Louis crystal in the design that they made for the royal family of England after World War I as a token. So I thought, oh, that's nice. I like the connection between the two places because the English and the French there fight all the time. I mean, they're having fun about it most of the time. But so this is the dining room. So this is just our, breakfast room.
What's the square footage? Just like not exact, but roughly.
Around 50,000.
That's
I think
a
we're
lot.
going to need to do an addition if we get another dog. So that's the portrait we had painted from a photograph of him, and that's the hat I found, and all of these different little books and memorabilia that my friend that was helping me with the history, we found all sorts of things and made that into a little museum. So this library was burned out in the 50s, and everybody kept telling us about, it had a fire and all this stuff. So we reestablished it, and I designed these bookshelves. We're supposed to have a rolling ladder to be able to go all the way up, but we didn't get to that yet. Yeah, we sold it at a loss before having a squatter. This lady who was
What?
like a hedge fund manager and all
Don't
this
tell
stuff
us
like that.
that.
Yeah, she just wanted to stay there just to figure some things out. We're like, okay. She got in and she wouldn't leave. But the interesting thing is that she had the police after her because she'd been doing this all over the place. They caught up with her there and took her away, thank God. So this is from the chapel. It's one of the largest chapels in the area, if not the largest. A lot of the people used to have their communion in there and stuff like that. They told us stories
Did you
about
end
that.
up having weddings in the chapel, or did that not sort
It
of
could
pan
be.
out? No.
It could be, but they didn't want to. Staircase, primary bedroom, bathroom.
Wow.
Used to be a bedroom, so we repurposed a lot of things.
Oh, it used to be the bedroom.
The lady who did all our curtains and pillows and stuff like that rescues dogs from East Europe, and all the money she makes from that goes to the dogs. And most of them are in those little wheelie things. Bless their hearts. This is not our house, but this is funny because this group of hunters I'd heard about through friends, and I said, oh, so they ride on horses? And I'm thinking, red coats and top hats and everything, and said, oh yeah, they get dressed up and everything. I said, oh wow, I'm so interested. I want to do that. I said, do you hunt foxes over here?
Yeah.
And he said, no, we hunt goats. I'm like, goats? Now I grew up with goats, and goats get on top of buildings and stuff, and I'm imagining all these people in their horses and their pretty outfits running around a shed, Well, come to find out, it was a mistranslation on their part because shove is goat and chevroy is small deer. So I'm not the only one to make mistakes. It was so much fun entertaining there, and we had some friends that had wines that we would use our label on, and I would drive people into Rolls Royce for their weddings. It was fun. And we brought the kids. The Christmas tree was from William's office, so it was like 14 or 16 feet tall. And a lot of the ornaments came, and then I put a ton of the leftover crystals from all the chandeliers. And so it just glimmered. The kids came in and they were just like, they couldn't believe it. I don't think they've seen it like that. And Halloween, the poor kid here, he's really sweet. He saw me with the contacts and the really good. He looked at me and I said, it's okay, it's okay. I'm sorry. And bagpipers. It was just such a mix of different cultures and stuff. I designed those gates, solid. So much fun to work with the artisans.
So did you put it up for auction?
We did.
This was your,
Mm-hmm.
just because it was too much, or just?
Well, we'd invested about $5.5 million in it, and so we really couldn't get that out of it, and we weren't expecting to.
Right.
And William wanted to knock it all down. He wanted to get bulldozers and a wrecking ball,
Really?
but I haven't told you why. So it makes no sense yet. I should have said that.
The stairwell.
Will you tell us why?
Yes.
Did you auction it furnished?
The first buyer didn't want it furnished. Yeah, so he put in a big deposit and all this kind of stuff, and then he backed out. So we sold a bunch of the furnishings. So then it was partially furnished, which made it less appealing.
Did you sell it to an individual or a group?
It was a family. It was an English family. We bought it from an Italian family. Now the English family, when I took a group of people back as a fundraiser for PAC Rep, We got to see all of it and everything. They were very welcoming and it's nice. And they are taking very good care of
Oh,
it.
good.
But now they're selling it on to an Italian. So these,
Oh, I love this.
they kind of, the magic wears off. You know, my dad said, you need to watch the movie. I said, I know, it's one of my favorites. This, you see how small we are and how
Yeah.
big that is? Okay, so now you look at this to a 10-story building, right?
Yeah.
Then you look at a redwood tree, average 300 feet. Then you look at these wind turbines, 450 feet. They wanted to put them 500 feet behind us on the property we
The
didn't own.
turbines?
Yeah, 4 of them. So,
Who they?
well,
City.
it's kind of the government because of the Paris Accord.
Yeah.
They have to try. And then the companies that are selling it,
Yeah.
and then the farmers who get rent from it,
And
and the
then the
municipalities who get some sort of tax or something from it.
But
and
you have
whatever.
noise from.
It is noisy, and all of the milk producing cows in the area would have trouble. That's been proven, and we're in a low fly zone for their Air Force. I mean, there's so many
made no
stupid
sense.
reasons why
Yeah.
it would be there.
Yeah.
But can you imagine us trying to sell this as a destination
With
for weddings
that.
with this thing towering? It's like a skyscraper,
Visually, yeah.
and 4 of them. So we found out about this after we purchased, which should have been before. So we said, look, if you need to do that, we respect that, but we can't invest $5 million in restoring and bringing this back to life if you're going to do that, because it's going to be in direct conflict with our objective of saving the whole village, really. That actually wound up hitting us in the butt later because we became too influential and the local politicians submarined us. But so they said, okay, the little village said, we agree. We don't want to do the wind turbines. We want to do that. Here's a montage.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Holy
Oh,
cow.
Lord.
So they came up and stood up for us, which is great. In the mairie, the city hall, all the people were hanging in through the windows to see what was going to happen when they were making their decision and everything. And when the council for 800 people is 12 people. They answered unanimously in our favor, and everybody cheered, and it was a big thing, and it got national press and all sorts of stuff. And so we went on, and everybody was really for us. But then, after we got finished, I'm not going to put on the French here, but I'm just going to tell you basically what he's talking about. So he's on national news, and he's talking about how we are stating our position as we had a legal document, and we did everything we're supposed to do, and they're not following through. So we wound up going to the governor of that area of France. She practically had tears in her eyes because she said, no matter what, the document isn't really binding, because if they change the date on the dossier and resubmit it again to the same people, they have to vote again. And if it's different people, and they had reorganized everything to where all the power is being centralized, and only 2 people from our little village had a voice among 50, so they got outweighed. And so they decided that they would not promise not to put them in. And so the thing is that I've done a lot of things just for the love of it and the love of people, and it's been wonderful. It's made my life rich, and I was so grateful. And I wanted William to experience that too, because his life has been about business and making things make sense. And he had so much fun with this, having the kids up and riding the old tractor around with Louie, our dog, running beside. And it was loving and supportive and great. And even when we were leaving, the families, there were 3 families with their kids at the end of their driveways waving goodbye to us in the middle of the night. And there were some kids who cried and stuff. It was really heart-wrenching, but the betrayal was just too deep for William. I could compartmentalize it because the people who made the decision on that council, they weren't the ones saying, no, we don't want to do it anymore. It's now other people that are reevaluating. And so we could continue to have this discussion and debate and everything. So anyway, we left. We went to Concord, Massachusetts to be near friends. I was in a terrible depression. We wound up coming here instead to be in a more European kind of feeling place. And it was during COVID, and I was so depressed. I was like, oh my God, nothing happening here. And one of our neighbors said, oh, there will be. Just you wait. There'll be too much. And she said, why don't you volunteer for me at the SPCA benefit shop? We need somebody to do the register. So I got to know all sorts of people being friendly and nice in the community, and that really healed my heart. And so I want to thank all of you and your community for making me feel at home. Thank you.
Well,
Yeah, David, such a fascinating story. Just want to quickly tell you a similar story. So I'm from Houston, part of the group Alliance de Française de Houston, the French Alliance in Houston. And we started to do well after COVID. We teach French classes and French culture there. And I personally love France. A lady contacted us from the Bordeaux area of France, and she had a chateau for sale, the last chateau in France that the French government allowed to be exported out of the country. She was offering
To take it,
Brick by,
to
I mean,
move it?
stone by
Yes,
stone?
she was offering stone by stone the facade of the chateau, which was in a warehouse. It had already been dismantled, and she was selling it for $6 million. This
I guess we did well.
this limestone facade in a warehouse. We had all the photos and the drawings and the paperwork. We looked at it. We actually had the French ambassador come to Houston, the French ambassador of the United States, come to Houston and talk to us, and talked in the community of Houston that it would be a great thing for us to buy it. We were doing well. We now have about $1 million in revenue from the French classes. We hired an executive director. So we got greedy, thinking that maybe we would have a bigger building, a part of France in Houston, that type of thing. We did some fundraising. It didn't work out. So the project is gone, but it's only been a couple of months now since the project is over, and we renovated the building that we do have in Houston now, added some classes so we could keep expanding. But, you know, some of us, it was not myself, but some of us on the board just died when we couldn't do the Chateau project. They really wanted a part of France in Houston, look like France. It was a real chateau.
Do you still own the material?
The paperwork,
Because I wasn't, did the stones arrive?
the lady did bring one stone that she showed us, but no, all the stones were actually, and we never got to the point where we negotiated the $6 million price, nor negotiated the shipping from France
Yeah,
to
imagine.
Houston, Bordeaux to Houston. We never got to that point.
Maybe for good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
As
that's
far as I'm concerned, yes, for
a
good.
huge investment.
Yes, yes.
Who knows?
We were looking at the land we'd have to buy in Houston. Ridiculous. It got to the point where it was going to be a $50 million
Yeah.
project. Nobody really wanted it, so
Yeah.
it died.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, labor and skill in France is a lot less expensive.
Yes.
That northern area near Brittany, the people work very diligently though. It's not like in, in south of France, what is it? Book called A Year in Provence.
Yeah.
Where he's got a lot of, people pushing
Fabulous
things
book.
off. It seems like in warmer climates that happens more, but.
David, you still have relationships back there? And
Yeah.
you go back every year or see that?
Well, the problem is that William is still angry.
Oh.
And so I took a group back and
We have to get him some otter therapy.
Yes.
They have the otter.
Yes.
But this is him.
With some bubbly.
Yeah.
I'm so honored. He's very handsome. But it sure would be nice to find another place or project for somebody to use that material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe we can negotiate her down to 500,000.
I mean, that's remarkable that you started from
Undertook
5
that.
million to on the south.
I
I have
no
never
idea.
heard of such
No,
a
I haven't
thing.
But you know,
either.
part of the thing in France is that there are no MLS, there's no realtor associations, so everything, it's like the wild
West.
east.
Yeah.
It's really, really cutthroat, and you can't trust anybody, and it's really awful, and I hated it. I don't even think that that chateau was on the market. I think somebody else took a picture of it and put a description on it on a website to try and get leads, you know? And then because the guy who manages the property, he could say, you know, you need to sell this to some people who are gonna restore it because it had one more year and it's gonna
It's
be
dead.
destroyed. So it was so much fun.
What type of taxes did you have had you kept it?
Oh, the taxes in France are so minimal.
Are
There's
they
a tax to
small?
habitation, which is like 1,500 a year per person. And then the tax of the structure was like maybe 5,000 or something like that.
You must have
Yeah.
gone through a big process.
Yes, the process, but you know what, actually, the harder process was getting our dog over there. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. You have to,
Quarantines.
yeah, but
and
then
all
you
that.
have to get the paper, go over there, do this, do that. No, you didn't do it fast enough, you know, it's like, and I was so nervous because, I had to admit something. So I don't ever like fibbing, but we had to get Louis over to France somehow. And I was worried that him as an emotional support animal
Yeah.
wouldn't allow him to get overseas in international, you know, companies. So I contacted Holland America Cruise Line, and they had a repositioning cruise. And they had this beautiful stateroom that was so inexpensive, and it was just like, oh, we could really use that rest to get across. And so they asked me, well, he's your service animal, what does he do? I said, well, if I have an anxiety attack, he'd probably go to get help, which was kind of true. But we got on board, and there was all this gossip going around that there was this couple that had gotten people thrown off a ship for having a faulty or false, you know, service animal. I was terrified. I didn't want to leave the room.
Fighting all the time.
This animal is not helping me. And so William says, what do you think they're going to do? We're in the middle of the Atlantic. They're going to put it out in a rowboat?
Exactly.
So, yeah, I hated that. But it was really nice, and it kind of felt nostalgic, you know, going back to the European locations and with connections. I have a lot of connections with my family. Voulez-vous parler un peu en français?
Je parle français un petit peu.
Ah, très fort. Yeah, I'm speaking Franglish now.
How long have you been here now?
I've been here,
COVID, he said.
yeah, almost 5 years. Yeah, and I've run for city council. A big part of that was trying to preserve Carmel character, and a lot of that has to do with our art community. And so if we push this out to be more of a Beverly Hills kind of place, then we are not going to have any space for our local artists, for
Right.
sure. You know, and
Balance.
that is a painful thing to approach. So this is a really powerful way to keep art alive, to keep people inspired about art, either for doing it themselves or doing it with others. So thank you.
Just terrific.
We're gonna do a mega whoosh. Okay. 1, 2,
Two,
3.
Big old whoosh.
I love it. Almost knocked my hat off.
Great presentation.